Hi everyone, today's topic is interpreting negative numbers on the number line. As a reminder, you do not need to write down everything we cover in this video, but be sure to jot down important information and at least one example of each type of problem that we're going to cover. Also remember that you can pause the video to jot down important notes, rewind to view information again, and fast forward if you think you already got it. Just be careful, make sure that you don't fast forward too much that you miss out on something important. Let's begin then. So to start off, we have the integer number line. You might want to jot this into your notebook. 0 is kind of the barrier between positive and negative integers, and it is neither positive nor negative. So it's right in the middle. You have positive integers, so that's like your normal counting numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. They go on forever on the right-hand side of the number line. And then on the left-hand side, left of the 0, because remember 0 is like the boundary, a fence between your positives and negative numbers, you have the negative integers. So they're kind of like your counting numbers, except they're negative. So they go -1, -2, -3, -4. You also probably notice that they're like a mirror image. So 1 is on the right-hand side of 0, one space to the right, and -1 is one space to the left. So each positive number has a negative pair that is going to be the same amount of distances away from that 0. So they kind of make a rainbow pairing there. If you were to take this number line, put it on a piece of paper, and fold it down the middle where you have 0, that fence, you will see a reflection as well. All the positive numbers line up with the negative numbers. So a lot of times people like to think that the positive integers are going in what we call normal order, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the negative integers are going, we say it's backwards. So instead of starting with 1, 2, 3, 4, when you're going from left to right, you're going -4, -3, -2, and -1. The important thing to think about here, though, or to know about here, is that the order is what we call backwards, because the smaller that digit is, -1, compared to -4, it's actually bigger. So -1 is actually greater than -4, even though +1 is smaller than +4, because this -1 is closer to those positive numbers. The -4 is further away from those positive numbers. So in the negatives, a smaller digit is actually a better value. And we're going to talk more about that now. So make sure that you have the number line written down, and pause the video really quickly and just jot down this information down here in red, purple, and blue. So we kind of talked about how the positives and the negative numbers differ in terms of their value. Here's some examples, real life examples of what we mean by that. So whenever someone gives you a negative number, here are some possible scenarios that they probably align to. If I were thinking about my bank account and I'm withdrawing money, taking money out, that's like a negative transaction because I'm taking money away. If I am depositing money, putting money in, that's like putting in positive integers. I'm making my bank account amount get bigger, while the withdrawing makes my bank account smaller. If I have a 0 situation, that means I'm doing neither one of those. I'm not withdrawing money or depositing money. So that's what we mean by negative numbers. The bigger the digit is, the worse it is, because if I were withdrawing $1, that's not as bad as withdrawing $4. So the bigger digit is not as good, as we would say. Now, if I'm looking at my bank account and it says that my bank account has -200 in there, that means that I owe the bank $200. If I have 0 in my bank account, it means I have no money in my bank account. And if I have a positive bank account, then that means I have money in there. So again, negative, it's not good to have a bigger digit, because if I have negative 200 in my bank account, that means I owe the bank $200. But if I just had negative 1 for my bank account, that means I just owe the bank $1. It's still not good, but it's not as bad as owing the bank $200. So the bigger that amount is, the worse it is for the negatives. While for the positives, the bigger that amount is, the better it is, right? If I have $200, which is all the way over here, versus $1, that $200 is a much better deal. I want to have $200 in my bank. When you're talking about money or even points in a game, the negatives would mean that you're losing money or losing points, and that's not good. 0 would mean that you're doing neither. And in that situation, positive would mean that you're gaining money or gaining points. So like we said, 0 is always that barrier, that fence between positives and negatives. We could also talk about sea level. So if you're hiking a mountain or deep sea diving, we're talking about sea level. A negative number would be below sea level. And sea level would be at 0. And that's where the ocean touches the land, that sea level. So when you're walking on the beach, you are at sea level. You're on the shoreline right there. And then above sea level would be like way up above where the ocean is. So that would be like if you're hiking a mountain or you're on a plane, anything above that sea level. And below sea level, like we said, would be like if you're deep sea diving, you're in a submarine, you're scuba diving, any of those situations, you're below sea level. We can use the negative integers to represent that situation as well. So the sea level, where the beach meets the shoreline, that's at 0. That's the fence. It's the barrier between the positives and negatives. So similarly, we could, instead of saying below sea level, we can say below ground. So that'd be like if you're in a basement. At ground level would be like if you're on the first floor. And then above ground would be like if you are in an elevator heading up to the top floor of a tall building. So again, the 0 represents just the ground level, the division between positives and negatives. And then the last situation you might encounter that involves positive and negative integers is temperature. We know on a thermometer there is 0 degrees Celsius or Fahrenheit, and then there's all the stuff below, which is the negative degrees. So if someone says it is negative 45 degrees outside, that's really, really cold. And then if someone says it's, 72 degrees outside, that's much hotter. Okay? Make sure you have all of this written down in your notebook before moving on to our examples. All right, let's take a look at this problem here. In this problem, it says Canasta is a card game, so we're talking about a game now, where negative numbers represent losing points and positive numbers represent gaining points. So this goes back to our lesson when we're talking about losing and gaining. So if nothing happens, that's 0. If we gain points, that's positive. If we lose points, that's negative. So they want to know, how would gaining 12 points be represented? Would that be 12 points or would that be negative 12 points? Pause the video and try it on your own. If you said, since it's gaining, that it was positive 12 points, then you are correct because you are adding 12 points to your score. Okay, let's try another one. In this example, it says, this morning, Romaine noticed that the temperature was below 0, so that's getting colder, when the temperature was negative 11.5 degrees. It's afternoon now, and the temperature is 9 3/8 degrees. So it went from negative to positive. What does this mean? What does this mean when the temperature is 9 3/8 degrees? Go ahead and pause the video and try it on your own. All right, so we're either choosing above 0 or below 0. which one would it be if it's 9 3/8 degrees? Well, we don't see a sign above it or in front of it, so we can assume it's positive. So it went from negative to positive. This positive either means above 0 or below 0. You should have chosen above 0 because negative means that it's below 0. It's colder. And this one means that it's above 0. It's positive. So if you think about your thermometer, you have 0 degrees, and then you have all that positive stuff above and all the negative stuff below. So this is 9 3/8 degrees. It's right here. Okay, let's try one more. This problem says Gabe is mapping out important family events. He uses negative numbers to represent time before he was born and positive numbers to represent time after he was born. For example, Gabe's mom was given a special coin in year -20, and Gabe's sister was born in year 5. What does year 0 represent? Pause the video and try it on your own. So it says that he's using negative numbers to represent time before he was born. Let's go ahead and draw a number line before he was born. And then positive numbers was after he was born. So mom gave him a special coin year -20. And sister was born year 5. So what does year 0 represent? What does this year represent? You should have said that that's actually the year that he was born because everything before was negative and everything after was positive. So that means 0 is that barrier. It's the year that Gabe was born. So what that means is his mom gave him a special coin 20 years before he was born. She got this special coin and said, you know what, I don't even have a kid yet, and I'm going to save this for my kid. And then Gabe's sister was born when he was 5 years old, so they're 5 years apart. So that's all that means. I think that -20 was put there to kind of confuse you, but it just means that mom gave him that coin 20 years before he was born. All right, so those are the interpreting negative numbers problems. You can also have problems where they're asking you to plot negative numbers on the number line. For this problem, they want to know where is the blue dot on the number line? What number is that? Go ahead and pause the video and try it on your own. Okay, in this problem, it looks like we have our 0 here, so it's going to be our boundary between our positives and our negatives. And it also looks like it's going by 2's, so you have to be careful there. This is 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. So that means on the other side it would be -4, -6, -8, and -10. Whatever they skip count by, you're going to have to do that as well. So you should have gotten that the blue dot is -6. Let's try another one. All right, now they're giving us a number line going up and down. So it's kind of like your thermometer situation. Where is the blue dot on the number line? Pause the video and try it on your own first. Okay, here they're skipping by 4s. They're counting by 4s. So it goes 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. So in the negatives, because remember 0 is separating the positives from the negatives, it's also going by 4s. -4, -8, -12, -16, and -20. So 12 is, or sorry, the point is on -12. You should have gotten -12. Okay, and let's do one last problem before we end for today. All right, in this problem, they want you to move the dot to 10 on the number line. So go ahead and pause the video and try it on your own first. All right, in this problem, it looks like they are counting by 5s. So here is, oops, I don't want to move it yet. Oh, it doesn't look like they're letting me draw on the number line. So we have 0 here separating our positives and our negatives. So it's going by fives. So we have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. And then we have -5, -10, -15, -20, and -25. So 10 would be 0, 5, and 10 right there. 2 spaces to the right of 0. All right. Let me know if you have any questions as you work on these problems, and I'll see you in class.